Hello, welcome back. Would you like to know the 4 signs that you're struggling with mental health? Well, if you're already struggling with mental health, odds are pretty good that you already know that you're struggling with it. But these are some early warning signs with interesting implications. Stick around to watch the full video to find out exactly what I'm talking about. Hi, my name is Jesse. Welcome to my channel, Open Source Owners, where we talk about what if humans had an owner's manual, and we talk about mental health awareness all the time. Let's find out. Okay, first thing I want to do is define what I call sustainable mental health. That is, it's a type of mental health that once you develop it, it's sort of a balance, which I call here a dynamic equilibrium, which basically is a fancy name for balance, but that it changes more regularly than maybe a balance does. But the goal of sustainable mental health, I believe, is everybody's true goal, whether you've used this term sustainable mental health or not. And I would define it as no matter what happens to you in life, you are able to weather the storms. And in fact, you actually use your sorrows, your pains, your struggles to strengthen your mental health over time so that you get stronger, more anti-fragile, more resilient over time, so that you don't have to go to a partial hospitalization program or an inpatient unit or have suicide attempts. We sort of elevate our game to the level that we always have sustainable mental health. Of course, we're still a human. Of course, we still have grief. Of course, we still experience loss, low-grade depression. These types of things are natural, but that we're not saddled with the burden of mental health, that it's affecting our relationships or our quality of life. That's what sustainable mental health is. That's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. That's what I want for everybody I know and that I love. The way I define sustainable mental health is these 4 domains. Let's quickly look at them. The biological, gut health particularly, and mitochondrial health particularly are the 2 pieces that are going to need to be in dynamic equilibrium or in balance. Everybody's body's going to be different. Everybody's gut health and mitochondria is going to be different. But essentially, why? Because gut health basically runs your neurotransmitter system, or it so powerfully affects it that if your gut health is not on point, then your neurotransmitters will definitely not be on point. And why mitochondrial health? Because that's your energy system. So if you have low energy, if you struggle with energy, let's bolster our mitochondrial health and see if that begins to affect not only our physical health, but our mental health. Next one is psychology, trauma, neglect, emotional regulation. Those are sort of the big 3 ones that I just sort of picked out of the hat. There's obviously other aspects to psychological health, like the quality of our thinking, but the quality of our thinking is really affected profoundly by our trauma, our neglect, and our ability to have modeled to us, particularly at a young age, emotional regulation. If that wasn't modeled to us, guess what we're not great at? Emotional regulation, right? So that's the psychological domain. What about the social domain? Isolation, if we are finding ourselves more isolated than normal or living alone, that's in and of itself, that's an indicator that our mental health is not doing good. It's a warning signal for mental health about to get worse if we're finding ourselves pulling away from all family, friends, society. And the loss of a tribe or the absence of a tribe is just a group of people that you share values with, you share common interests with. So it could be like a yoga tribe or a meditation tribe, or it could be like a paleo tribe or a vegan tribe or a moms that walk tribe. It doesn't matter. But if we have a tribe, that will bolster our mental health and make us much more resilient in the face of other things that could cause mental health struggles. If we've recently lost a tribe or a group of friends or something like that, a church, a change of church, or maybe we moved and we lost a social network that we used to have that was a support and we don't have that anymore, that can be an indicator of losing our sustainable mental health and in fact becoming in the danger zone. And the last one, spiritual, meaning, purpose, and expressing your gifts. We all have natural gifts just by being born that are unique to us, that are special to us. It doesn't mean that you're the best at it of all time. It means it's a unique part of the constellation that is you. And we need to express those regularly, or we don't feel like we're connected to our soul. And that's important. Meaning and purpose is super important. If we feel that there is no meaning or purpose to our lives, guess what's the natural result of that? Mental health struggles, right? Okay, let's go into the 4 specific signs that will give you an indicator of if you're struggling with mental health. Okay, the first sign that I'm going to point out here is low energy. Let's read this here. A sudden shift in your energy is a clear indication of biological ill health. So that's one of the 4 domains, the biological domain. That's a very clear indicator. So the gut and the mitochondria is what I'm specifically talking about here. It could also be directly related to grief and loss-based depression. So if you have low energy and you're going like, man, where did my energy go? I'm so tired all the time. I'm sort of generally depressed. You got to first rule out, well, has there been a profound loss or grief experience that you just had? And if that's not the case, then it is very likely that the low energy shift has something to do with your biological system and specifically gut health and mitochondrial health, which would indicate a certain type of intervention, a certain type of behavior change, right? Whereas if you have grief and loss, even if that was a while ago, but it's been re-triggered by some other minor grief and loss, grief is a particularly interesting path. It's not linear. It goes all over the place. You could have experienced loss 10 years ago and then had a reminder grief, a trigger, yesterday, and it could have triggered the loss from 10 years ago. So we want to rule that out. And if there is grief and loss issues, that's going to be a different form of treatment. Get grief counseling. There are people who are specialists at dealing with grief. Start to read about grief. You can click the link below for books that I recommend, and in that book list there are specific books for grief that I would recommend. Okay, sign number 2 that you may be struggling with mental health issues is social isolation and being in your head. If you find yourself with no checks on your own perspective, aka you are alone most of the time, and your internal mental landscape is hazardous, then you may be experiencing social isolation-based mental health issues. So when I say that your mental health landscape is hazardous, I mean that you're having chronic negative thoughts or thoughts of self-harm or thoughts of wanting to die, these types of things. That's a hazardous place to be, especially if you don't have any other people sort of reflecting back to you like, hey, it's okay, or no, you're going to get through this, or let's do something fun. If you're just alone and your thoughts are already sort of geared toward negative self-talk, then that's a recipe for a downward spiral. And that is what I would refer to as social-based depression or social-based mental health struggles. One of the key solutions to this then is finding a tribe, reaching out to a therapist or a grief group or a counseling group, getting connected to people who can relate to you and whom you can relate to and help is going to be one of the primary ways that you can sort of overcome this aspect of mental health. Okay, sign number 3 that you may be struggling with mental health. Well, this is a big one. Loss of meaning or loss of purpose and or not using your gifts. Let's read this here. If you have no sense of life having any meaning or any personal purpose, or your personal purpose has recently changed or you never had it, or if you feel like you have no special gifts or natural interests in this life, then that equals a spirituality or a spiritual driven mental health crisis. So your unique gifts would be stuff like, I love animals and I need to be around them, or I love to make music and I need to play music, or I love to be social and I need to be around people. It's not like, oh my gosh, you're so unique, you're a special genius. It's more about the things that your natural soul crave to be a fully alive human. Maybe that's time in nature. Maybe that's being religious. Maybe that's being a helper. Maybe that's being a server. It could be a million things, but you have to find those natural gifts and then engage in those to sort of fill up that bucket of meaning and purpose in your life. An example for me is playing guitar, writing songs. I really enjoy that. It's something that I had not done for about 10 years of my life. And when I picked it back up, it felt like some part of my soul came alive again. So what is that for you? Okay, and if you've lost meaning, so you had a profound loss and you're wondering, well, what is life all about? Or if you've had a connection with God or religion, but all of a sudden that's been strained and you don't believe that that's there anymore. What is the purpose of all this? This is a philosophical question. And ultimately, this is a spiritual question because it goes deep to your own personal spirit or your own soul, however you want to define that. But that part of you that's beyond human, that part of you that is sort of pure, beyond culture, beyond parents, it's that natural part of you that needs to express itself and needs to contribute to life. Now, if we don't feel like there's any meaning or purpose, that's really something where we want to engage with spiritual quests. We want to engage in psychedelic assisted therapy. We want to maybe talk to spiritual members of our community. We want to start to read books about Buddhism or these types of things to start to understand what this life is all about. And one book recommendation that I would just have off the cuff here is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. It's just such a great treatise, and it's short and it's easy to read, but it's a great treatise on meaning, finding meaning and purpose in the most horrible circumstances imaginable. And sign number 4 that you may be struggling with mental health struggles, I guess this one's kind of obvious, but thoughts of self-harm or thoughts of it will never get better. These types of mental landscapes really indicate that we're struggling in the psychological domain. And this is the realm of having a good psychologist or a social worker who can really help you reframe and practice like mental ninja tactics on your own mental thought processes and what's going on in your brain. Let's read this here. If you chronically think of suicide or self-harm, or if you think thoughts like, it will never get better, what's the point of trying? This is a clear indicator of psychological derived mental health struggles. And to me, it's a clear indicator of trauma or neglect. So some type of abuse or some type of chronic neglect that you experience in your early childhood formative years, particularly around 0 to 2, and another key range is 0 to 6 or 7, somewhere in that range. What happened to us in those ages shapes how we view the world and ultimately how we view ourselves within the world. And it's not really fair, is it? Because you're just a kid. You didn't really get to choose like how your worldview got shaped. But believe me, it did. And the more you can understand that, unpack that, and ultimately do the work of what's called reparenting yourself, then you can repair those thoughts of like, what's the point? Or I just want to die, or I just want to harm myself. And this is in the realm of psychology. This is in the realm of doing some good work in therapy. And might I suggest to you, you might try one of my favorite forms of therapy, which is internal family systems, IFS. You might try, if this is you, hooking up with an IFS trained therapist. They're all over online. You can do it in your pajamas at home through Zoom, or you can probably find some in the town that you live in or nearby town. And this is a great form of therapy to really get in deep into the core of where these thoughts come from to ultimately resolve it and be free and have sustainable mental health, which is the goal, right? At least that's my goal. Okay, questions for you. Please leave your answers in the comment section below. Which area of these 4 is most concerning to you right now? So let's just focus on right now as you're watching this video. Whenever you watch this video, it doesn't matter. What is most concerning to you right now in these 4 domains? The biological, so energy, sleep, skin issues, social, loneliness or isolation, psychological, always anxious, always depressed, chronic self-harm thoughts or suicidal thoughts, and the spiritual domain, no meaning, purpose, or connection. So let me know in the comments. I would love to read those. Which area is really a struggle for you right now? And if you know that, then you begin to know how to proceed to resolve the struggle. And if you're intrigued by this 4-part model that we've been using in this video, then I would invite you to consider joining the home subscription service. You can click the link below to find out more, but essentially this is what it is. You get weekly support, monthly support. It's very low cost, and we go through and we cycle strategically through each of these 4 areas for basically upping our game in the mental health space, but also upping our personal development game. In my opinion, this type of work is a lifetime's worth of work. It doesn't stop necessarily. We just keep spiraling our way through each of these 4 domains through sort of continual improvement. And I don't mean that in the machines, hyper-capitalist sort of way of just like, we always must get better, but more well-rounded, more balanced. It's really about the balanced improvement, not about like, mastering something or achieving something so that you never struggle again. It's not about taking the human out of being human. It's about evolving ourselves and ultimately our families and our communities to be the best version of ourselves that we can. I don't know about you, but when I'm 75, I hope to be wiser, more skilled, more valuable to my society than I was when I was 25. So that's the goal. If you're interested, go ahead and click the link below. And there's a couple free ebooks that I wrote that I would also want to give you just for making it all the way to the video. They're just free. I wrote them. They're sitting on my computer. So you might as well have them as my way of saying thank you for watching the video all the way to the end. I appreciate it. And that was 4 signs that you might be struggling with your mental health. I hope this has helped in some way, shape, or form with what I'm thinking of as mental health awareness. I'm just trying to raise general mental health awareness because I think it's so critical. And I bet you do too if you made it all the way to the end. So thank you again. I appreciate it. Until the next video, take care of yourselves out there, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.